Hello there, my name's Vince from My Mate Vince, and in this video today we're going to be trying to fix up a dehumidifier. So this is supposed to take moisture out of the air and for it to collect down here, and then you can empty it out every now and then. So it was sent into my PO box here, and when I first of all plugged it in, it was all working, but luckily I discovered a little note in here, a little letter, and it says here, "I really enjoy watching your channel and wondered if you might take a look at this dehumidifier. There seems to be a lot of these on Amazon for around £40, although under a variety of different brand names, and some have great reviews. They're supposed to gather about 10 millilitres of water an hour. Now that's not very much. So if you think a can of Coke is 330 millilitres, so it's going to have to be on for 33 hours just to gather the amount that you would get in a can of Coke." It says that he bought it off eBay secondhand, hardly used, and while it turned on and made all the appropriate noises, it didn't gather any water even after being on for 8 hours. I was immediately given a refund and wasn't asked to return the item. I've not seen you do one of these before, so I hope it might be of interest. Best wishes, Nick. So yeah, thank you, Nick, for sending it in. It does say here that it is perfect for small rooms, and it says wardrobes, larder, cabinet or storage room, etc. Now, I appreciate that it's going to work better in a small room, as in that you're going to see the results. Maybe you won't have condensation in that room. But surely it doesn't matter where this is. I could put it into the biggest room in Buckingham Palace. Surely it's still just going to take out the moisture from the air wherever it is, whether it's in a shoebox or whether it's in a 100-metre square room, it should still gather water. I'm going to be quite interested to see the inside of this. I'm not sure whether it's going to be a fix or not, but I think it would be interesting to see the inside. Now, just to show you it making the noises, when we turn it on here, you can hear it wearing away. And if I unplug this tray at the bottom, you can see this is how you empty it out. But look, can you see that there's a float here? This thing here, yeah, it goes up and down, but you can see it there. So when the water rises, this lifts up here, and if you have a look here, we have two switches. One is to, there you go, see it's on now. So that one there just says that the tray's in, so it only works when the tray's in, otherwise water's going to gather down in here. In this one, you see it says full, and it will turn itself off. So that's all working. I can see what looks like a massive heat sink here. So let's unplug this. And I'll tell you what, actually, just in case it was something to do with the power supply was a little bit weak, this is output on 12 volts, 5 amps, so there's quite a lot of amps there. Let's see if we do have 12 volts. I won't be able to test for the actual amps. Yeah, 12 volts. So I'm going to say that the power supply is probably okay. So let's get rid of that. And let's dismantle this and see if we can work out. For me, I think it's going to be more about how a dehumidifier works. Let's undo these 4 screws here. Right, so we've freed the, here we go, here's the fan here. There's a fair bit of dust around here. And these are the switches down here, which again seem to be doing what they need to do. Let's just double check on the board here, everything looks okay. So I presume the resistors are there just to protect the LEDs. I can't see any problems here at all. So I think we're going to put that back on. Oh, so it drips off this bit. And this is like a little lip that it drips off. I'm going to dismantle it more because everything's a little bit unclear. Oh, hold on, we got something on the back here. What is that? What's that for? Let me Google that because I don't know what that is. Well, I knew this was going to be interesting. I would have just thought it was fans sucking air through something like this, and then when the moisture hits this, it would just start dripping off. But no, there's it's something called a Peltier plate. So I need to Google that. I've never ever heard of that before. So this must get super cold, and then it's making this ice cold, and then when the air is drawn in, when the warm air is drawn in through here, or normal room temperature air, it then condensates on this and drips down into here. So this is the thing that actually makes it cold. The fan, all the fan has to do, so this must have failed. All the fan has to do is basically keep air moving, you know, to suck air in from the outside, I think. Well, the only thing that could have failed is this thing. So I suppose we're going to have to unsolder it, otherwise we're going to be measuring the motor to the fan and stuff. Let's unsolder it and then we can get maybe an ohms reading from it. I wonder, is that normal? So I wonder, as it heats up, should it change? Should we add a tiny little bit of heat from a distance? Yeah, look at that, massive changes. Look at that. Well, that says to me it's working. Right, let me look up the spec sheet of this and see if there's any kind of resistance reading I should be getting at a certain temperature. This is turning out to be one of the most interesting fixes. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix it, but the most interesting products I've looked at in a long time. It's all to do with this item here. So basically it's 2 ceramic plates and it has different metals on the inside. And if you were to heat up this plate, then you should notice a voltage here. But if you put a voltage into it, then what will happen is there's a hot side and a cold side. So basically, this side here is going to be the cold side, and this side against here is going to be the hot side. So, in my mind, I'm wondering, is there a chance that it's been put on the wrong way around? So basically that this here is actually the hot side. So what happens is it draws air in through the front, and this has to be really cold. I mean, right now this is freezing, but I think it's just because my room's so cold, and obviously this is a massive lump of aluminium. So when the hot air gets drawn in because of the fan's sucking the air in, hot air hits this and it condensates down into the drip tray, into this. And then basically, you can't let this side get too hot. So that's why you have this massive heat sink here. Apologies, you must hear the doorbell go more in my videos than any other videos out there, including probably reviews of doorbells. I think it's just when you work from home, and others must feel this way as well, people don't see it as if you've got a job, especially if you work for yourself. Different if you work for a company, oh, he's working from home. But when you work for yourself, it's like you're not working. The problem is people will call around, they've got a day off or they're retired. I haven't. I'm actually trying to work. I'm trying to work out what this Peltier thing does. Anyway, I am now going to get my bench power supply. I am going to put 12 volts into this because that's what's coming down these red and black wires. Let's see whether this thing is getting hot or cold. I'm wondering if it's been put on the wrong way, that maybe it's maybe what's supposed to be the cold side is actually the hot, and what's supposed to be the hot side is the cold. So it might be a nice easy fix where we just have to spin it over. So let's pick up the video where I'm about to put 12 volts into this thing. Right, so this here is 12 volt 5 amps. Let me put my bench power supply to 12 volts 5 amps just to see. We'll put it directly into here. Let's see what's going to happen. So, negative. Positive. Let's see what it's drawing. It's not drawing any amps. It's not drawing anything. Yeah, my bench power supply is 0.001 amps. Right, okay, so that doesn't seem right. Let me plug it in the other way around. Negative to positive, positive to negative. No, it's still not drawing anything. So that says to me now that that's the reason it's not working. So this thing's failed. Let me wiggle it around just in case we can get some sort of life out of it. Isn't that weird? But yet we read resistance in it. Right, okay, I'm pretty convinced now that that has failed. I mean, there's nothing really else to fail. It's just heat sinks. We've got switches here. They're doing what they need to do. And also we've got lights and resistors. They're doing what they need to do. So this is the only thing left. But yeah, it's been interesting messing around with it. So let me get some... I'm going to order one up from... I'm going to have to order one up from China. And I might order up a couple of them. And then just wait for the month or so until it arrives. And then we can hopefully finish off this video with maybe this collecting some kind of water. Right, curiosity has got the better of me. I'm 100% this has failed, so I'm happy to have a look on the inside. And you never know, imagine if it was a broken wire that we could actually fix. I haven't ordered up the replacement one yet. Or is it possible that it's been made wrong? What are the chances of that? I suppose very slim. That's nice. Oh, that's very nice. Oh, check that out. Oh, that's so satisfying. Oh yes, look at that. Got all that off in one go. Whee! Well, look, can I take this off? Yes, I can. Right now. Oh, look at this. So, what have we got going on? I mean, there's no moving parts or anything in it, so I'm kind of wondering why it's failed. You know, the wires are going into it. So what's, you know, what's failed on it? The ceramics just to take the heat, you know, to conduct the heat and the cold. Now, this is interesting. What I did is I got my soldering iron and I just took off the negative from here, and I wanted to have a close look, and it didn't make any difference. You know, I thought maybe that it was going to be shorting against something, but it wasn't. And then I took off the positive from here, and again, this little corner bit here wasn't shorting on anything. You can see that they are all individual, yeah? But what I then did is, with my bench power supply, I got this here, and I basically sort of probed here, nothing happened. I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I went along here, nothing happened, went along here, went to here, and it got burning, like as in burning hot, very, very, very quickly. So I'm just going to put my bench power supply on now, and also it was drawing something like 3 amps, something like that. So, oh, dearie me, right. I know you're not going to be able to see my bench power supply or the heat, but right now, 0 amps. Yeah, 12 volts, 0 amps. Right now, sorry, I don't know if it makes a difference whether it's top or bottom. Right, 0 amps, 0 amps. Oh, hold on. There, I can really feel it hot. There, 4 amps, red hot on this side here. Well, to be fair, red hot everywhere, like instantly red hot. So I am going to, does it make a difference if it's top or bottom? Red hot. Just, that's it, 1 second and it goes red hot. So it looks like these rows here have failed, but from here it might be doing something. Now maybe I'm just shorting everything out and it's going to burn out within seconds, but I'm going to put a heatsink on it. And let's then see if we can just tap the wire onto here. Let's see whether I can feel this side here getting cool. Could be interesting. Right, so I'm going to try to prod in here and hope for the best. Let's see if we're going to get any coldness out of this. So I wonder, can I rest that on? I can rest that there, can't I? There we go. Perfect. That's a nice setup. Okay, now here goes. So it should get pretty cold pretty quick. So I'm going to turn it on. We've got 12 volts. Now it might all explode on me. Let's just randomly go in here and hope that I get a right sort of one. So, okay, 4 amps is drawing. Is the temperature going down quick? Temperature's going down pretty quick. Hasn't blown up yet. 3.3 amps, 12 volts, 3.3 amps. Can I actually feel it getting cold? Oh my god. Oh my god, it feels ice cold. That's it. It feels ice cold. Right, I'm going to, I don't want to do it anymore, you see, because I haven't got any heatsink on this side, and this heatsink needs to be, bigger. So that's the problem. 100% we've proved it's that. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bodge up the wire on here, solder it on. Let's see if it lasts. You never know. I mean, we haven't got this row here, you know, this whole sections here, but it still might be working at 2/3 of its capability. And I'll order one up there. You know, I can get one for, I think it was £10. I'm so happy. It's not wanting to stick. It might not be something you can solder to. Let me try to give it a good clean. Well, I'm just going to tin up the cable, and I think I'm going to put the cable on this way. There we go. Excellent. I'm going to put some hot glue in that as well, and hopefully it will hold. It is amazing how quick this thing heats up and gets cold. It really is. a fantastic little thing. I'm so glad I've done this video here because I'm really impressed by this thing. Right, I have just put a little bit of glue all the way around the edge. So I put the little elastic bandy type thing that was back on it. And then I got this, I heated it up and I just rubbed it around the edge here. So it's got a bit of a seal around it. Don't know what that is going to be for. Maybe to keep the heat in, you know, so it can only go this way or that way, possibly. Not sure. Or it might burn out now quicker, I don't know. Right, let's put this all back together. Right, so it's wearing away here now. And it's only been on a couple of minutes. But I can feel that the air here is warm. And that doesn't feel like anything. But I can feel warm air being pumped out here. So this is where it sucks it in. If you have a look, you can just see the tissue will get drawn to it. It's not strong, but look. You can see that the tissue is getting drawn. And if I put this up here, can you see there? Again, not strong, but you can see it arching there. So that's brilliant. Right, well, let's hopefully see some water collecting this later on. I'll be disappointed now if it doesn't work. So the time has gone 10 o'clock now. This has been on for quite some time, a few hours. And look how much water it's got. Absolutely nothing. It's as dry can be. Not even, he didn't even have the decency to give me one drop. So, although we have partially fixed it, meaning that we can easily tell the difference between very hot and felt very cold on my fingertips. Obviously, by the time it's going through the heat sink and stuff, it's not cold enough for the air going into it to actually condensate and go down. So, I think, just really for the end of the video, I think what I'm going to do is, I don't want to wait for the Chinese one to arrive, so I'm going to go for the 40mm by 40mm, and let's just see then if it condensates then. I don't think this thing would ever work amazingly well. I reckon if it was in a very damp environment, like maybe like a damp caravan or a damp car or something, because you get a cigarette lighter thing with this as well, you know, a 12-volt supply, then I reckon it would work well there. But in a home, I'm not sure how well something like this would ever work. Good old eBay. A few days have passed and look what's arrived. A nice 40mm by 40mm one. So it's a lot bigger than the other one there, but the actual information here is the same. So I think this is to do with like the voltage and the amps and stuff like that. So it's the same number, it's just a bigger size. But look, it is going to fit in between there. It might actually work better because this is slightly more expensive than that one. So who knows, it might work better. Right, I don't know which is the hot and cold side. So I'm going to place this on this way here. And I'm going to put 12 volts into it, and let's see if this gets hot or cold, because we want this side here to be the hot side, don't we? So I want to feel that getting warm. So I've got my bench power supply set to 12 volts and 5 amps. So do you know what? Let's lower down the amperage, because I don't want to burn this thing out. Let's just lower it down to 2. Hopefully that should still give me some kind of heat. Right, so negative on here. Whoa. Right, here we go. Yeah, it's drawing. Right, that's the cold side, so that's the wrong way. That's fine. Right, so that's the cold side here. So we need to turn this round. Yeah, and I can already feel that that's slightly warm. Now, I'm going to do the same thing again just to make sure that this is a little bit warm. Warm? Yeah, definitely warm. Right, okay, so we now know which is the cold and which is the warm side. So let's get this back together and we can see whether or not it's going to produce any water. I hope so. Right, the time is now nearly 5 o'clock. So this has been on for nearly an hour and a half and still there's nothing here at all. So, I mean, maybe this room's particularly dry. I'm going to put it into the kitchen because the kids have just come home from school. There's wet coats, there's wet bags. So surely there has to be some moisture in the kitchen. Okay, wet coat, dehumidifier. Let's see now in another hour and a half, 2 hours, whether it's picked anything up. I mean, part of me was thinking, is there something else? Could the fan be, you know, blowing instead of sucking? But it's not, is it? Because we used a tissue test earlier and it sucks it in from here and it blows it out and I can feel heat coming out here. It's really weird, I'm sure. I thought it would have collected something by now. Right, the time has gone 8 o'clock, so 3 hours, and look, it's been moved from that side to this side and food has been cooking on here. So there's been steam coming up. This has been on, but there's still been steam coming up. And check it out. There is nothing in here whatsoever. This thing is just a waste of time. Okay, well, there is actually evidence of water around here. Can you see it on my finger? Okay, well, there is tiny bits of water. Yeah, and look at my thumb. My thumb's wet. I fixed it! I'm so desperate for fixes that I'll cling on to anything. Honestly though, I think I have fixed it. I think I fixed it when I bodged up the old Peltier plate. It's just, in my opinion, it doesn't work as well as I was expecting. But looking at the reviews, there's lots of people that are very happy with it. So I think if you've got water dripping off your walls, or you live in some sort of like stone building with no damp-proof course or anything like that, and the walls are very, very damp, then maybe this would have more chance. Maybe my house is just too dry for something like this. So I am going to, just to end the video on, let me get something plastic, that it matters. I am going to, I've got my little digital temperature gauge just here, and I've rammed it in between the heat sinks there. Let's turn it on. I want to see what temperature it gets to. Right, ready? So, we're on. Hold on one second, I want to make sure it's fully up there. There. Right, let's see what that drops down to, and that will be proof of it actually doing what it needs to do. So I'm just going to fast forward through it just to see what temperature it settles at. Right, so I've got some blue tack wedged in there. My hands were getting tired. Right, it seems to have settled at 5.5. Now it's gone up to 5.6. That is since I've fiddled in here, so I might have moved the temperature probe a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off and let it climb up a little bit, turn it back on and see if it will drop back down to 5.6. But you can clearly see it's well under room temperature. I'll let it get back to 7, turn it on again and see if it will drop back down to 5.6. See, the slight thing that's confusing me is the heat generated by it. Will the heat generated, will there always be maybe a 15 or 20 degree difference between the hot side and the cold side, no matter what the outside temperature is? Because when you put voltage into it, it might just find the hot side always as maybe 40 or 50 degrees Celsius, depending on the size of the heatsink. Maybe the outside temperature doesn't affect it as much as I'm thinking it would do. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if my room temperature here is 22 degrees, does that mean that if I was to put it into an outside garage where the room temperature might be 2 degrees, that this dehumidifier would read in the minus figures? Or does it not work like that? Because the Peltier thing is the thing that's governing the temperature, and that's governed by the voltage going into it and the current going into it and the design of it. So I'm wondering, would the Peltier temperature be different? Once you put heat sinks on both sides, would it be different if you had it in a desert or whether you had it in Antarctica? Would it still be the same temperatures because it's the Peltier thing that's doing the temperature difference? If I put this into somewhere that was exactly 6 degrees less than this figure you see here now, would this be measuring 0 degrees? I don't think so, but you tell me what you think in the comments below. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes now, and it looks like 5.6, 5.7 is the sort of lowest temperature it's going to get to. So you can clearly see it is working. It's just not working in my house. But looking at the reviews, a lot of people are happy with it, so it must be working in other people's houses or the use that they're using it for. Anyway, forget about all that. Forget about whether the product's good or bad. I think it was a really interesting video purely because of that Peltier device there. If you know about it, the video is probably quite boring, but I've never seen one before to my, not knowingly seen one. You know, maybe I have come across them and never taken any notice of them. But what a fascinating little device. Massive thank you to Nick for sending this to me. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much for watching.